Yang Jianbing is a name of a Chinese MMA fighter who fought in the Asian continent. But unfortunately, on December 2015, he died due to kidney failure and heat stroke because he was trying to cut weight. So today I will inform you about the dangers of cutting weight, so cutting weight is a serious issue in the sport of MMA. It is not talked about enough, like other issues such as steroid use and head trauma. From my own personal experience, I've had to cut weight in the past, and I also have research from some websites. So today I will inform you about what cutting weight is, why it's dangerous to your body, and possible alternatives. Okay. So first I will go over what cutting weight is, why people do it in the first place, and how it works. Okay, so first, fighters cut weight to fight in the lowest possible weight class that they can weigh at. So this is achieved mainly through dehydration, aerobic exercise, and sometimes a sauna. So typically within the 5 days leading up to the fight, the fighters start to cut out most of their water from their diet and most of the food. And sometimes you see them with trash bags running on a treadmill for a long time just to get the water out. Yeah. Okay. And then the weigh-ins take place the day before the fight. So that means after the weigh-ins, they have about 24 hours to rehydrate and replenish their nutrients. So this means that before the fight, a few weeks before the fight, maybe they weigh about 10, 20, sometimes even 30 pounds more than what they're supposed to weigh in at. And comes the day of the fight, they regain all the weight back, and they come out 20, 30 pounds heavier. So one example would be our own Max Holloway. In interviews, he says sometimes before the fight he walks around at 170 pounds, 175 pounds. But when it comes to the week of the fight, he has to cut down all the way to 145 pounds. They do this mainly because it gives them some advantages when it comes, especially to the grappling aspect of MMA. There's also weight classes in boxing, but the massive weight cuts aren't as common. You could even see Floyd Mayweather, sometimes he weighs in 3 pounds under his actual weight limit, which means he didn't even try to cut weight. Because in boxing, there's more advantage to being faster and smaller and lighter sometimes. And you don't have to worry as much about grappling like in MMA. Yeah. Okay, so now that you understand what weight cutting is, I'm going to explain to you why it's bad for the sport. So according to a website called Popular Science, water enables your kidneys to filter blood and maintains a balance of potassium and sodium. So since fighters are getting dehydrated in the days before the fight, they have a lot of imbalance in their system. And this also causes a buildup of waste and acids in the kidneys, and also to be clogged with proteins. So this is why a lot of fighters sometimes they suffer from kidney failure or kidney stones close to the fight, and they have to pull out, unfortunately. Another bad thing about weight cutting is that since they're losing so much water, they lose the ability to sweat. And if you can't sweat, you cannot put on your body, which sometimes leads to heat stroke. So according to a man called George Lockhart, who is a professional at helping fighters cut weight, he even says that cutting weight increases your risk of getting knocked out and risk for concussion. Because the brain needs water to be able to function properly with more attention and memory. And according to a website about brain health, severe dehydration leads to swelling in some parts of your brain. And if they're more swollen, that the brain is getting swollen in your brain. So if you get hit hard in the head, it causes more damage to your brain and more risk to concussions. So. Okay, there's even an example of also everybody gets affected from bad weight cuts sometimes, even the top level fighters. Yeah. So one example would be in UFC 209, scheduled for March 2017, was Khabib versus Tony Ferguson for the lightweight title. Sorry. It was a big anticipated matchup, and everybody was excited about it. But unfortunately, the day before the fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov, he pulled out of the fight due to getting really sick from cutting weight. So this is really damaging to the sport because fighters can't fight, they get hurt, and the fans get disappointed. They lose out on a lot of money also. So now that we know that weight cutting is bad for the sport, I will talk to you about possible alternatives. Just like the story I mentioned earlier, the man named Yan Jianbing who died, he fights in an organization called One Championship that's centered in the Asian continent. So after his death, they were forced to implement, they were forced to try to make ways to prevent fighters from cutting weight. So one of these ways was the hydration test, which is similar to what I experienced in high school wrestling. So what that means is that they'll constantly test your pee and you'll see how hydrated you are. If you're super dehydrated, they won't let you fight. They also do a body fat test that I also experienced in high school. It's where everybody has to do it before the season. And they take this tool and they pinch areas around your body to see how much body fat you have. And then with that information, they can calculate how much weight you can lose and in what amount of time. So for example, if I showed up to the body fat test and I was 150 pounds and they pinch me on my body, they see that I have some fat. They'll say at the next tournament you cannot be lighter than, say, maybe 145 pounds in order to be safe. So that's good. And another thing that MMA organization should do is they could add more weight classes. That way people have an easier time finding out what weight they fit in at. Also, another big one that not too many think about is same-day weigh-ins. So the reason why people can cut so much weight is because the weigh-ins take place before the fight. And they have a lot of time to rejuvenate and rehydrate. But if you make them weigh in on the day of, they'll think twice before cutting weight because they won't have as much time to recover. Okay. So in conclusion, weight cutting is really bad for the sport, and not too much people know about it. So now we know what weight cutting is, why it's dangerous, and possible alternatives. And I know half of you, according to the survey, half of you know somebody who's involved with a sport involving weight classes. So maybe you should look out for them, because a lot of times we don't know the harm that we're doing to our own bodies, because we think we can handle everything. Yeah. And I'll leave you off with one more story. There was a fighter who was out of weight class, and he wasn't that good. He was winning and losing over and over again. So what he did was he moved up to the next weight class, and now today he's the middleweight champion named Robert Whitaker. So if you didn't know about that him before, when he used to cut a lot of weight to get down to 170 pounds, he wasn't that good. But after he stopped cutting weight, now he fights at 185 pounds. Now he's a champion. So I think that people should think more about fighting closer to the natural weight than cutting weight.